on the News Channel 5 network. This is Score on Business.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to Score on Business. I'm Pete Hendricks, a serial entrepreneur and your host for today. Score Nashville is our website, and Score wants to see entrepreneurs and small businesses succeed. We have classes which are low cost. We have free counseling. There are a lot of things that are available on the website, so check it out. And so our first guest today is Leroy Cunningham, and he is with the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, which is similar to Score but different. We complement each other. And so Leroy Cunningham is a senior executive with the Tennessee Small Business Development Center's Murfreesboro location. His role includes a wide range of activities. He teaches many of their free workshops, is a counselor to entrepreneurs, and speaks extensively on the topic of helping entrepreneurs and small businesses grow. So Leroy, tell us about the what you all do, and how the Tennessee Small Business Development Center helps entrepreneurs and small businesses.
Pete, first of all, thank you for having me today.
Oh, thank you for being here. And
you did a pretty good job with the summary you just gave. We're very similar to Score. We're kind of first cousins, if you will. But basically, we interface with the public in three different ways. The first way is through our workshops. We have a number of different workshops on a variety of business development type topics, many of them associated with planning, because planning is important. But we'll probably do in Murfreesboro close to 1,000. We'll train this year. Statewide, 16,000.
And there's no charge for yours.
And there's no charge for those workshops. So that's the number one way we interface with folks. The second way is we have an outstanding website, www.tsbdc.org. That's got a number of materials available on it.
Okay, so that is, let me say that as well so everybody gets it. tsbdc.org.
Correct.
Or for the Tennessee Small Business Development Center.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. And it is a statewide website. We have 4 service centers here in the greater Nashville area: Murfreesboro, downtown Nashville, TSU's campus, northeast side, Volunteer State, and at Austin P.
Okay.
But again, going back, our number one way we interface with the public is through our workshops. Second way is through our website. And the third way is through one-on-one counseling that we do with people depending upon their need. It could be to help them in a startup scenario. It could be to help them expand. It could be to help them correct a bad performing business scenario as well.
Right. So I'm thinking about a guest that was recently on that was talking about, get your voice out there and kind of have some accountability with folks. So planning is an important thing.
It very definitely is, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because if you look at the statistics that are associated with success or failure relative to startups, there is a clear distinction in those that plan versus those that don't. So much of our activity from the standpoint of the workshops we have, the materials on our website, and what we talk about with people, we try to get them to understand it's okay to want to be an entrepreneur. That's fantastic. But you need to do some kind of thinking about what you're going to do prior to getting into it.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're real big on that planning piece.
Right. And part of that plan needs to be, how are you going to pay your bills until you make any money?
Well, you're exactly right on that as well, Pete, and that's one of the things that we do that I think is maybe a little different. There's a lot of people that you can go to that will tell you, go here to get your business license. But we really get into the situation that says, okay, if you're really going to be in business, how are you going to run that business from day to day?
Yeah.
Do you have a marketing strategy?
Right.
Okay, I'll give you an example of that. Today, social media is all the rage, but social media doesn't necessarily apply depending upon who your target market is, or certainly not in its entirety.
Oh, yeah.
So we would try to get people to understand, first determine who is it that you're selling to, and then match a marketing strategy to that.
Right.
As an example.
So what I'm hearing there is you ask the right questions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, we were talking about planning. What are some of the other important things you've seen a lot of companies, you've seen a lot make it, you've seen a lot not make it. What are some other characteristics of the ones that usually make it in addition to a business plan?
Well, there's a whole list of what we call personal characteristics that are associated with successful business owners. And obviously, there's no person that's perfect and is going to be a 10 on all of those. But what we try to do is get people to examine who they are as a person to determine if those particular qualities are going to help them or hinder them in their business. If you find something that's going to hinder you, because we all have some of those things.
Oh, absolutely.
Then you need to know that going in and try to address it ahead of time. I could address it by getting some additional training, or I could take you on, Pete, as a partner because you're strong where I'm weak. So the business leadership now as a whole has what it needs from that standpoint. So that's another key area. Who are you as an individual, and how is that person suited to be a business owner?
And where, people tend to be happier and more successful when they work from their areas of strength.
Absolutely. Absolutely, positively. The other thing that I would mention is because a lot of people have a numbers phobia. Well, you cannot be a successful business owner and run away from the numbers. You don't have to have an MBA or a CPA, but you do have to have a fundamental understanding of what those numbers mean. So we do a lot of work with people in walking them through the income statement, the balance sheet, and particularly the cash flow statement. Because we know cash is king.
Cash is king.
Yes.
Okay. And unfortunately, you've also seen a lot of companies not make it. And what are some of the common mistakes that people make that lead to failure, and failure of the business, not failure of them, but failure of the business? And what can they do to avoid those?
Well, the biggest thing, again, is I go back to that planning scenario. And I'll take a common example because we all like to eat, so therefore a lot of people believe that they can be successful as a restaurant owner. But the reality of that situation is that's a very, very competitive business. And oftentimes it's one of the highest failure rates of any businesses. The reason why is because a lot of individuals get into it without a plan. So you really, it just goes back to that planning scenario, or because they don't have a plan, their project is very definitely undercapitalized, and that cash flow situation gets into them. They run out of money before they can get the business properly launched.
And that needs to be in the planning, which I'm sure you all focus on them.
Very, very definitely. That's an integral part of the business planning process to come up with those financials that are real financials, not made up financials.
So what are, when I'm sure you've had people come in that have a good idea, but they don't have any money. What kind, talk just a little bit, and you can't be specific, but talk a little bit about the need of an entrepreneur to have some money.
That's absolutely correct. In these days and times, particularly post-2008, the lending institutions were properly chastened by that. And they are a little different on things now. No more $500,000 loan with no job and no money. You're probably going to need somewhere in the 20, 25, 30% range at least. So if I go in and ask for a $100,000 loan to my lending institution, they're going to want to know that I've got $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 if it's a risky area of my own unencumbered money. It's called skin in the game. And if you don't have it, you're not going to play. I mean, it's really that simple at this point in time.
And one thing I think about with a lot of companies will go and pitch to investors, whether they're venture capitalists, but when you get money from them, it's not like they sit quietly.
Well, that's absolutely correct, and we deal with people that are, some of them are going to get money from a lending institution, some from an angel investor, some from a venture capitalist, and what I tell folks are, particularly when we're talking about angels and venture capitalists, that's a viable source of funding, but you have to understand if they invest into the business, they're going to want to have a say in what's going on. And if you're not up for that, then you probably need to get your funding from somewhere else.
Okay. Okay, well, Thanks so much for being with us today, Leroy.
Thank you.
You've shared some great information.
Thank you very much for having me. I really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back. Thanks.